regular meeting of the Board of Regents of the Del Mar College District will convene. It's now in session. It is Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. Let's all have a moment of silence. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Brother Gabe, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
The Del Mar Vision Statement, we will read it out loud along with the Board of Regents. Del Mar College will be the premier choice of life, educational opportunities provided by responsive, innovative faculty and staff, students, local and global communities. Okay, let me remind everybody that Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from the official Board of Regents meeting on the college website in real time, with exception of those portions of the meeting that may be considered as closed session by statute. We do have a quorum and we will conduct business. First, we will start with student and staff recognition. Ms. Laura Keys.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege today to recognize Dara Betts. Dara, would you join me? Dara Betts is a Director of Corporate Services and a major in the U.S. Army Reserves. So Dara comes to us with extensive background and experience in UAVs or GIS or drones, as most of us would refer to it. And what happened most recently, you have a brochure in front of you that says Catching Air. And I'd like to point out the logos that are on the back, because she was invited to attend the 2019 Commercial UAV Expo of the Americas in Las Vegas and represent Del Mar College along with Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation with Tommy Kurtz, who is one of their vice presidents of business development, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, the Lone Star UAV Center out there, and us. And so it was fabulous that Dara was there. This was a great opportunity in that this was the leading trade show and conference focusing on the integration and operation of commercial UAS with more exhibitors than any other commercial drone event in the country. The event covers industries including process, power and utilities, civil infrastructure, construction, aggregates and mining, surveying and mapping, public safety and security, and precision agriculture. And so Dara was there representing Del Mar College at this worldwide, really, conference, and as a collaboration across our entire community. And I thought y'all would like to see what this great effort is, and it's being led by Dara, and her extensive knowledge and expertise has really brought us forward in this field. And so we're at the cutting edge. Del Mar College is within UAV, GIS, and drones, and the technology that goes along with it, and the businesses. And Dara did provide me with just some of the names of the companies that she was able to meet with, and I just think it's real important to know. One is Bird Stop from California, and they build automated docking stations for commercial drones and permanently dock in remote locations for us to operate. Inspired Flight Technologies, also out of California, and they build hardware manufacturing for drones focused on drone production and research activities. Quantum Systems out of Germany, and they're a medium-scale UAV with advanced capabilities for takeoff and collection of research and data. And then UAV Tech out of the United Kingdom, and they do a similar manufacturing of hardware and research. And so I think that just shows the capabilities and the breadth and depth of what Del Mar College and under Dara's great leadership is going on. And Dara, you want to make just a brief statement?
Sure. So the purpose of us being invited to the conference was to, along with the CCRDC and Texas A&M Lone Star, was to attract business to the Coastal Bend area. So between the three of us, we each presented our business case, with the CCRDC presenting on the economic impact, and the it just makes good business sense to be down here, as well as the Lone Star UAS Center and their capabilities of testing for drone flights and research, and having that large area that they can test with, along with the UAS traffic management system, how to operate within an urban environment under the 400 feet elevation. And on that note, just this last summer, NASA and Texas A&M Lone Star worked together and did a test. One of the final testings is a 5-year project of testing safety integration of UAS into the national airspace. So this UTM traffic management system was really crucial because Corpus was one of 2 test sites for that. So Del Mar College students were able to, our UAS pilots, because we do have pilots, we do train our students in UAS operations, and they're able to assist and be part of that event. So between them and then us at Del Mar and all the training that we provide, not just in the customized training for their companies, but also in the geospatial and UAS pilot, FAA pilot test, as well as a testing for manned and unmanned aircraft. There are over 200 flights you have to have inspections. So we also provide, our students are trained to do that, and our NDT program actually offers that. So it's just a good business sense, business case. And so these companies specifically were actually looking for opportunities to expand their companies, whether it's from overseas or right here in the United States.
Thank you, Dara.
Thank you.
Just wanted to share with y'all some of this great expertise of what's going on within our community, and Del Mar is leading the way. Thank you, Dara.
Thank you.
Laura, if you can go ahead and come on up, we're going to go ahead and get you ready for your presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, Laura Wright will join us and talk to us about the architecture program and a special opportunity that she and her students had. She was, well, I'll let her tell you about it. It's a Texas Association.
The Texas Society of Architects has their annual convention usually
Take it over.
in the fall.
Take it from there. I had it right last Monday. Today, it's been too long.
And one of the things that's been a mainstay of convention for many, many, many years, even when I was a student, was the student design competition. So the various architecture programs across the state of Texas would handpick their teams to participate in Design Charrette, which is a project that is done in a very short amount of time. This project was 48 hours long. And so it went away for about a decade. They brought it back. And this student design competition, this was the first time a community college was allowed to participate in that competition. The other schools that competed were Rice University, UTSA, Texas Tech, and A&M College Station, as well as Del Mar College. Whereas UTSA won the grand prize, the jury was incredibly impressed with our submission and our team. Some of the comments that the jury had was that these students had the best presentation of all of the submissions. It was the only team which addressed the humanity aspect of the project. And to give you a little background, the project, they were given 48 hours to design, and then they had to present their project in Galveston at the annual convention. So the challenge was small coastal communities share some similarities with larger urban cities through social, political, and environmental issues created by pressures from tourism, gentrification, land development, and history. These issues are amplified in coastal communities where discontinuities like land and sea tourism and local inhabitants, economic development, and historic districts become catalysts for rapid change. Layer the yearly cycle of storms and the imminent effects of climate change on top of existing pressures, and the amplification can become catastrophic. Galveston has endured many events throughout its history that caused rapid changes, redefining the prevailing discontinuities represented by the coastline, economic development, gentrification, historic structures, and historic neighborhoods, and yet it remains remarkably resilient. Is there a tipping point for Galveston where its current resilience fails? What can architecture offer to ensure Galveston remains resilient? And so the students had just 48 hours. They were presented the challenge. They had to come up with a solution and provide a design solution on how they would solve those issues. And the juries were really impressed and made a point to speak to our students afterwards, saying that they were the only ones that addressed the humanity aspect. Del Mar College was the only team that provided a real current solution addressing architectural resiliency for the duration and aftermath of a storm, and the Del Mar College team showed quite a lot of impressive work for a short 48-hour design charrette. And I'd like to introduce you to the team. And whereas the students competed against graduate students or fifth-year architectural students, these are second-year students with only 8 weeks in Design 3. So it was quite impressive. So I'd like to introduce to you Tim Teperak and Nicholas Garcia, Olivia Cavazos, and Diego Diaz, who is not with us right now. But this was our design team and representative, and what was exciting is that they made a statement for all the community college architecture programs in the state, and we got a lot of recognition and pats on the back from other colleges saying that was brave to go out there and do that and to make such a impressive showing. So what they have is an example of the board, but they also did like numerous fly-through animations along with their presentation to the jury. So, which was quite impressive for 48 hours of work.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, to the students and Professor Wright, thank you, and to the other student who wasn't able to join us, please give them our thanks and congratulations for the work well done. It's impressive when we're out there amongst the great universities, as a great college ourselves, amongst, with the lower division students competing with these upper division students is an incredible undertaking, a brave undertaking, and then to go out there and to make such an impressive statement. I'm surprised y'all didn't come. Were y'all recruited while y'all were out there? Does everybody start talking about it? Yeah, see, I thought so. Okay, well, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So not only getting out there and venturing out with such a project, but putting your names out there yourselves so that that other half of your educational career is in front of you. We congratulate all of y'all. Thank you.
I would like to take off my hat.
There you go.
Unbelievable. That was unbelievable. Very impressed.
Laura, if I can add one more thing, I thought it was just me that was not aware of their capabilities, but now that you're saying that they competed against upper level students and how impressed the juries were up there, then I guess I'm in the right group, because I don't know what I was thinking. I thought maybe we taught them drafting or something here. I mean, I had no idea they had that kind of capability. I was very impressed with their presentation last week at the South Campus. So congratulations.
Yes, this program, the architecture program, delivers the first full 2 years of an accredited architecture program that they would transfer into. So they're getting those classes, and with the field of study programs now in place and the articulation agreements, that pathway of transfer is a lot easier than it was 5 years ago.
That's great.
Yeah. And I know former Regent Jim Boggs just walked in, who's also an instructor currently, instructor of architecture. Thank you, Mr. Boggs, for being here in the back. And thank you, students, and thank you, Laura, for all that y'all do. Sorry.
Sorry, before Dr. Escamilla spoke, I was just thinking about Mr. Boggs, and I said he would be so proud of the students, and he walks in. Hello, Mr. Boggs.
Thank you.
We also do one for the
Okay, this is the point of the meeting where we go into general public comment. There will be a 3-minute time limit. The first card I have in front of me is for Dr. Gerald Sansing.
My name is Gerald Sansing, 5426 Chevy Chase Drive, and I'm here to present a package to each one of the board members that are in attendance. Plus, I've got one for Mr. Rivera. My purpose of this is to approach you, and this is my final step in a resolution to many problems that I've had with policies and so forth at Del Mar College, okay? And I would like to ask you to, since you are the last in the process, then I'd like to ask you at the next meeting to have an open meeting and discuss these problems, okay? So I would like to present these to you. I don't know how you want to get these around, but
Ms. Pettis will grab them, Dr. Sensing.
okay. All right. They're rather heavy. So I'm just, trying to end my rights and so forth under current policies and procedures. So thank you very much, and I will catch you later.
Thank you, Dr. Sansing. Mr. Jack Gordy.
Yes, Jack Gordon. I live at 4118 Bray Drive. The lady's passing out a copy of a letter that I sent to the Texas Attorney General about Del Mar violating state law. I requested some information from Del Mar, and I know you can see from there the stuff on here that's all blotted out. Well, that's a violation of the Texas Freedom of Information Act. The embassy cannot blot out or delete any information unless they get permission from the Texas Attorney General. So I wrote the Texas Attorney General and asked them to check Del Mar out and find out why they're violating state law. That's not the first time. And on here, it's the information is the information from the law firm in Austin. And there's stuff on here that's hard to believe. I know you people, you get a copy of how much money is spent, but they don't tell you what it's spent on. Here, one phone call. Now this is ridiculous. One phone call, 5.3 hours, and it cost the taxpayers $2,703 for him to talk to that lawyer and talk to Tammy McDonald. $2,703 to talk on the telephone. And this Board of Regents is accepting that? It just don't make no sense at all. You should start asking what they're paying for. And like I said before, it's coming out of your pockets and coming out of all the taxpayers' pocket. Waste, waste, waste. The letter you got in the mail talked about waste. And I've seen waste a lot of times, but I've never seen so much waste as Del Mar possessed. They waste more money than any tax in the state of Texas. And you people should know it. And we elected you to make sure that Del Mar does things right. But evidently you don't care.
Thank you, Mr. Gordy. Do we have any more cards back there? Okay, we'll move the agenda to staff reports. Ms. Mary McQueen on the foundation yearly update.
Well, thank you. Make sure I can, yep, sure enough. Again, Mary McQueen. I am the executive director. You want me over here? So, the yearly report, I want to recognize, if I can, that Gabe Gatta, who's the president of the Del Mar College Foundation Board, is here. And so if he wants to come up and do the presentation with me.
I'll stand right next to you.
Okay.
I bet you he's done a presentation or two this week.
Just a couple. So we are very, very excited that, that we have an incredible year this past year. Maybe. Ha, there we go. Okay, so the development fundraising component of the office does donor development, stewardship, special events, annual campaigns, major gifts, plan giving, corporate foundation, and grants, wherein the foundation is the fiscal agent. The grants office takes care of all grants, wherein the college is the fiscal agent. So that's just kind of an overview of what we do as a fundraising component. As a foundation services, we manage all the scholarships for the college and the students. Donor database, the Del Mar College financials. We just recently went through our audit also. So we've got the report from our audit, and also asset investments. So just kind of giving you an idea of where we are. Current assets are $23.4 million, almost 23.5. This is as of the fiscal year 2019 for the foundation. That fiscal year ends June 30th. To give you an example, I actually came here in 2010, so I kind of go back to when I first started here, and our assets were $8.6 million. So that kind of sees the growth over the 9-year period. In 2019, our fundraising was almost $3.8 million. That's just the fundraising component of it. So that's the direct gifts and grants that the foundation has overseen. We almost doubled the fundraising from last year. But fundraising goes up and down. It's a very fluid type thing, so I think it's really more important to give you the 5-year average. The 5-year average for fundraising is $2.6 million. So that kind of lets you know about what we do on an annual basis, and that makes so much more sense than just, oh, we did great this year, because it doesn't always look that way. Okay, we did initiate a planned giving component in January 2017. Our latest in July, we received the final update from that group, and we had about almost $6.7 million in deferred gifts, which was almost 600% increase over the planned gifts that we knew we had before we started the initiative. We are putting a hold on that particular initiative for a little while we make sure that the team is ready to actually activate that initiative. This past year, we gave out $1.8 million. That's the 2018-2019 year in scholarships. And it says over 1,850 students. I rechecked these and afterwards found it was 1,780. So I was off on the students, but still, that's one of the highest years that we've had in scholarship awarding for Del Mar College. A couple of the special projects that we've done over the years. Recently, we've been involved in helping to raise $6 million for workforce equipment. That's a lot of the equipment that will be going into the new Workforce Development Center. Hurricane Harvey relief, which was a big emphasis in 2017, and then the Rebuild Texas Carpentry Training Program, which was in response to Hurricane Harvey. And while most of the programs for this was actually about helping rebuild homes and businesses, ours were about training the workforce to help those people trying to do the rebuilding, because the challenge was not being able to find anyone who could do carpentry. Our fundraising goals are basically to increase face-to-face fundraising, reduce event fatigue and increase the effectiveness of staff and trustee time. And to do that, I mean, we have an incredible team with our foundation, but asking people like Gabe Guerra, who is the president of Clayburgh National Bank, to get special events or sell a table isn't the most effective use of his time. So we're looking, and for the past year, we've been doing an analysis of where we spend our time and how we raise money and what are the best ways to do it. And we know that these are the best ways to do it, face-to-face and talking to a donor and finding out what makes, what's important to them. Where do they want to put their philanthropic dollars? So we did an analysis of the 3 special events we had. We had Bernie's Crawfish Boil. Our gross average for the past 2 years, as you can see, was $128,000. The net for the past 2 years averaged at $94,000. So we raise scholarship funds. We will be revamping this program. We're looking at how to reduce the time a staff spends with it, how to make sure that this is a more interactive, experiential event. And I will tell you, we are changing the menu. So it won't be Bernie's Crawfish Boil. When we first started Bernie's Crawfish Boil over 12 years ago, it was the only crawfish boil in town. That is not the case anymore. So we will probably be changing that menu. Stringers for Scholarship is our fundraiser for the fishing tournament. That's there. You can see the gross of the 2 years, the net of the 2 years. One fun thing about this is we actually create the trophies, and so our welding department does this. So it's a way to showcase some of the things that Del Mar can do extremely well. It is the highest growth rate in the past few years. So we anticipate keeping this event. We believe we can build it and make the time use very effective, but we have not set the date for 2020. Some of you have seen the Over the Edge. The board chair, Carol Scott, went over the edge this year.
Not Carol Scott.
Huh?
That's not Carol Scott.
That is not Carol Scott. But she did go over this past year.
That was me the year before.
Yes, that actually is first year. That's she
The first
the very
year,
first
yeah, that's
year.
right. That's
yeah,
right.
the very first year.
So Carol went over this year and drew a lot of attention, raised a lot of money, had a great time.
And it was a really great event. It was a really great event. We average about $81,000 gross for the 2 years, but we only net right at 50. And the reason is it's very expensive to get the caliber of repellers to make sure everyone is safe. And it's a lot of fun. We revamped it this year, and I would say it was the best event that we've had for Over the Edge. However, we are cutting this event. We cannot find ways to make it more efficient and increase the ROI on this event, so it doesn't really matter how much fun it was. It is what makes sense, because at the end of the day, what we do is raise money for student scholarships. We don't have events to have events and have fun. So if it doesn't raise enough money for student scholarships, then we have to get rid of it. So we will not be doing it next year. And that kind of gives you an overview. Any questions? Okay.
Any questions, Gabe?
Not a question, just a comment. I can't thank you enough for everything that you guys do. Foundation, Gabe, Mary, you and your staff work endlessly to make sure our students have what they need to continue their education. So thank you. Just a thank you.
Ms. Mary, just a real quick question. Do you have any idea what will be replacing the Over the Edge?
I will not replace it. We are looking at cutting down the number of events that we do.
Okay.
We are a community that loves fundraising events. At least the nonprofits love fundraising events. Donors, not so much. So there's a lot of fatigue out there with event after event after event. So we are looking at, I would say our major fundraising event will be the fishing tournament. Bernie's Crawfish Boil will be switched from a fundraising event to a friend-raising, focusing on the types of things that Del Mar College does. So it's going to give us an opportunity to share the uniqueness of Del Mar College and the investment opportunities for those donors to make a difference in our community by experientially allowing people to do things like do the welding simulator, right? Do the driving simulator, see what our carpentry program can do, those types of things. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, and that's not my call. For
No,
everybody
it
who
was
knows,
not your call.
yeah, everybody knows I love the fishing tournament. We put it all on the table, ladies and gentlemen, and I asked the Mary to go talk to the board of trustees and their executive committee and say, just make the right business calls on whatever is. I love the fishing tournament. I love all the events. Okay, fishing is okay. I'm guilty, right? But we put them all on the table, and these are all business decisions that are coming forth, and I, totally support what the foundation is recommending with its board of trustees. My only final comment is, Mr. Guetta, I want to thank you for chairing. Come up and give us just a couple of words. You can't just stand there and look pretty
It's
and not
great
say
to
anything.
stand back sometimes.
It is, but just a couple of words. Thank you for all that you do in the community. You give so much of your time. You give so much in so many different areas, and for you to be, taking the helm after Todd Walter and and the other chairs at the Board of Trustees for the Foundation of Del Mar means a whole lot. You give back to this community, and we thank you for that one.
Thank you, Dr. Escamilla.
Sure.
First of all, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I know most of you, if not all of you on this group, it's certainly a pleasure to be a part of Del Mar and to do so as my role as president and CEO of Clayburgh Bank, and certainly as a community steward. I will tell you, I'm extremely impressed by the leadership that you have here with Ms. McQueen. Talk about, in business, we talk about plan your work your plan. You do have a strategic plan. There are a lot of discussions and thoughts that are having, including the discussion around events and where you're spending your time. So I want to commend her. I also want to commend you as Regents. Certainly, the community needs to see a vibrant and strong Regent group there, and I appreciate your volunteerism and what you're doing. But I'd also to applaud the efforts of your leader, Dr. Escamilla. It's important to state that in my time at Del Mar College Foundation, that people look to the person at the helm of who's leading as president and CEO of the college. And I will tell you that time and time again, that his name as someone that's trusted in this community has led to validating the efforts of Del Mar College. I also serve on the Federal Reserve Bank San Antonio's advisory regional business council, an appointment I received recently. And we have a lot of discussion about workforce and workforce development. And I'm going to tell you, you guys lead the state in those efforts. I'm also a board director of the Independent Bankers Association of Texas, and we talk about workforce and what we're doing in our communities. And I certainly believe that Del Mar College is the model for all junior colleges. So I'm extremely proud to be a part of that, extremely proud to be a part of the leadership, and I'm honored to be a part of Del Mar College. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guetta.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any more remarks, questions? Okay, Dr. Christina Wilson, the 2019-2024 strategic plan.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Just when you thought you were done with strategic planning, it's time to start a new phase. So I'm here today to talk about implementation and monitoring of the new strategic plan. I'm sure all of you remember the year-long process that we just completed to develop our new plan. We met several times looking at both internal and external data, reviewing goals, objectives, and finally, you approved the plan in September. This should also look very familiar to you, the planning cycle that we utilized to organize our process. It's based off of the model from the Society of College and University Planners, also known as SCUP. So we finished with the right side of this cycle. You can think of this cycle as the 5-year view. So we finished the first half, and now what I'm going to be talking about today is that second half, the implementation piece, the next 4.5 years, and the evaluation piece. So we will be implementing this plan through August of 2024 and evaluating, formally evaluating annually, though as we go along, we do evaluate along the way. As we developed this new plan, Aspire, Engage, Achieve, there were a few key components that we talked about again and again as we developed this plan. It was very important for us that this plan be developed by our stakeholders, students, faculty, staff, and community members. All of that feedback was utilized to develop this plan. It was also quite important that this plan focus on our strategic issues. We know that we're doing a lot for our community and for our students. We want to make sure that this plan was very actionable, which leads me to the last two pieces, which is going to be the focus of the rest of our conversation today, which is KPIs. We talked quite a bit about that during the development process, the fact that we need to measure our progress towards our goals, and also we want to make sure, again, you heard this many times, we didn't want a shelf document. We want a living document that we can utilize, measure, and tweak as we go along. So I'm going to be talking about key performance indicators and how we will be implementing this plan. Okay. Within the packet for today's meeting, you received a copy of the operational plan. In September, you approved the strategic plan, which forms the basis for the operational plan. The operational plan includes the KPI targets, which are a part of the strategic plan. Oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. Our strategic plan includes our KPIs, but the operational plan includes our targets and our thresholds for those KPIs. It also includes our strategies, how we plan to accomplish these goals and objectives. We do consider this plan to be a living document, whereas our strategic plan itself, those are our set goals, objectives, and KPIs. Our operational plan, we intend to look at, again, annually, look at our progress, not just with our data, but with our activities. And again, evaluated annually. Okay, so let's dig into KPIs. As you look at the operational plan, you'll see that every KPI has an identified threshold and target. Thresholds are those levels of acceptable attainment, which you can also look at as our baseline that we don't want to go below. So we've set those, we know where we are, we know what we want to accomplish, we know where we want to move from there. The targets we're looking at as our aspirational vision. This is what we want to accomplish in 5 years. You'll see we have quite a bit of KPIs and very robust targets. 5 years may seem like a long amount of time, but as you know, in large organizations with lots of moving parts, 5 years goes by really quickly. So our intention is to stay above our thresholds and get as close to our targets as we can within this 5-year period. The way that we got to these thresholds and targets was a pretty involved process. I know you may look at it and wonder, how did Dr. Wilson get that? Did she just pick a number? How did they come to be? Well, the Strategic Planning Committee actually looked at trend data, minimum 5 years of data to see what our trends are. We established a baseline. We also compared ourselves to our peers across the state, and then in some cases we also had one-on-one conversation with particular areas. For instance, we know that we're implementing guided pathways. How is that going to impact completion and retention? So all of those factors were incorporated into the determining of the thresholds and targets. All right. So let's talk about our institutional strategies. You did see a draft of these strategies back in June during the First Look Strategic Plan presentation. During the last few months, the Strategic Planning Committee has refined these strategies. We've assigned these strategies, and we've incorporated them into our annual planning process. Those strategies are also included within your operational planning document. So just to give you a visual of how this plan is structured, the operational piece of the plan, we have our goals. Each goal has multiple KPIs and multiple objectives, and also multiple strategies. As you look at the operational plan, you'll see that the strategies are attributed to certain goals and objectives that indicates which goals and objectives they will support. Okay. So I mentioned already that this is going to be evaluated annually. In some of our prior retreats, we've mentioned that we already have an annual assessment process here at the college. I just want to talk a little bit more about that so you know, have some background on this process. Every unit of the college, which means every instructional program, every division, every department, has an annual plan. They develop their goals and their targets for achievement for the year. We work on the calendar cycle. So what we will be doing with our strategic planning strategies is embedding those strategies within the individual unit plans. Excuse me. We didn't want the strategic plan to sit by itself. We wanted it to be integrated into our ongoing processes. So I want to give you an example of what that looks like. One of our strategic planning strategy is to develop and refine our strategic enrollment plan. This particular strategy was assigned to the Office of the Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Rio Silva's area. So what happens is, within our annual cycle, from now until January, that particular strategy will be refined. Targets, resources will be attributed to that strategy. Over the course of the next year, Dr. Silva's area will implement that strategy. And then at the end of the calendar year, they will report. So this happens year after year. It's embedded. So again, we didn't want our strategic planning strategies to sit on their own. They will be a part of how we do business at Del Mar College. Okay. So you're going to be hearing from me again. We talked about this not being a shelf document and the fact that strategic planning is ongoing. Again, annually, we plan to provide you with structured reports on the strategic plan, but every month as you receive updates, all of these pieces are embedded within the strategic planning process. Just to reiterate, we will be implementing this plan through August 2024. We will be reporting on our institutional strategies every year by February 1st. So every area of the college is reporting. We will evaluate our KPI progress and provide updates to you every year in the fall, more than likely early fall. And as I mentioned already, our operational plan is a living document, so we know change happens. We want to adapt. So we need to look critically about the progress that we're making, areas where we may need to put more resources behind or just adapt. We never know. There's lots of unforeseen circumstances. So you can expect more information in the next few years. Do you have any questions?
Regents,
any
again,
comment?
today's,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm supposed to go last.
Are we off to a good start?
We're off to a fantastic start.
Good.
I'm telling you, the college is doing so much, and all of these amazing strategies are already embedded into the plan, and we already have a head start.
Good.
We're doing very well.
I'm sorry. Have you assigned the people who will be responsible for every strategy?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Regent Estrada, they have been assigned, and each of those strategies are already embedded in their annual plans. So they know what they're responsible for and that they will be reporting on it annually.
Thank you.
And you'll come to us annually or semi-annually or quarterly or?
The plan right now is annually because we want to give you the best data. Again, 5 years seems like a long time, but it really isn't. And implementing a strategy and impacting data takes time. So we thought that the best window would be once a year.
Yep.
But of course, if you have any particular questions about any strategy, I'm sure Dr. Escamilla is flexible to that.
Today's purposes were really to talk about how the plan is operationalized, to give you a semblance of how we connect the plan to our operations. The data is just being generated as we speak. We're closing out this semester. And what happens is, by the time things are certified, and when you get a full view of an academic year, and all of those data are certified times 3, that's a full year. It's a slow yet really quick. And a big organization like us, as Dr. Wilson is saying, it's actually very fast.
Yes.
A year goes by in an instant. And so, annually, as the data is fully baked, we're going to be bringing it back to you to evaluate, and so that you can begin benchmarking and begin assessing. We shared with you the thresholds, the ideas of kind of where we are benchmarking. The plan is in its infancy, truly. And I think the last thing that I want to say is I want to thank the team for getting us to this point. And the point that this is not a shelf document, that this is a document that will change. Invariably, there are changes along the way. Now, we don't want to make major structural changes. Right. Tweaks are more appropriate, but as necessary, it will address as the environment changes. We'll address or adapt accordingly. That's the beauty of a strategic plan. And again, thanks to the team for getting us this far.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This past year, we've done some amazing work to develop this plan, and I want to make sure that you know that the team is still working on it, and we will be for the next few years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Mr. Raul Garcia.
So Mr. Garcia is getting ready for this one, Regents. This is a topic that about tuition and fees here. Student charges is the umbrella term that I like to talk about because tuition isn't necessarily a fee and so forth and so on. But this is a very sensitive subject that we get to broach annually to set the fee as per policy and as per your responsibilities. And as requested, we have brought to you, I think for the past couple of years now, I think this may be the third year, an opportunity prior to our February board meeting is when we actually set tuition fees. An opportunity for discussion to not go cold into the board meeting and to the topic in February, so that we can begin getting a feel for thoughts and ideas, the general sentiment about things, to make sure that the college is in accord with you all's expectations for the charges that our students incur at the college. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, members of the board, Dr. Adame. So we are now turning our attention to the fiscal year 2021 budget, which starts with calendaring the budget activities, followed by a discussion on tuition and fees. We will go over today our peer group with similar characteristics, the annual cost of attendance, the college's tuition and fee rate changes over a period of time, and factors influencing tuition and rate changes. I also want to point out to you that changes to the tuition and fee structure is a delicate balance between maintaining student affordability and resources needed to fulfill the college's mission. So the next three slides are on the 2021 budget calendar. Our goal for this year is to move the timeline by a few weeks with a target date to have the budget approved by the July board meeting. There are 5 phases to our calendar. The planning phase includes discussions around developing the budget calendar, tuition and fees, determining preliminary budget assumptions, engaging the budget stakeholders, and budget training. The information gathering phase includes capturing and summarizing financial needs and assessing historical spending trends. This also includes the business office engaging the various budget stakeholders to discuss funding needs and how it achieves the strategic objectives defined in our 5-year strategic plan. The review and recommendation fee includes capturing and summarizing the financial requests, confirming that the financial resources are aligned with the strategic objectives between the budget office, the chairs, the deans, directors, the executive team, the president, and the board, all in the spirit of governance. The next phase is the budget approval process, which at this point the board, the college leadership, and the budget stakeholders are all in lockstep on how the college allocates its financial resources. If done well, resources allocation is driven by strategic objectives. Look-back questions around the use of financial resources should be very limited. The final step is the property tax approval, which by state statute, we have no other choice but go through the same year-over-year process in the month of August. Please note that this calendar is also very flexible, and we're really planning 9 months in advance, so there's a lot of flexibility in updating and changes as better information is received. And I already have one change. So for the August, on this calendar, I have a regular board meeting August 11th. I've now been told that that's been changed. We're going to consolidate that date to be in line with the tax rate approval, which is scheduled for August 25th. So we're combining those dates. We are no longer having the August 11th board meeting. That's going to be combined with the 25th. Okay?
That's what we say today.
Yes, yes. Subject to change, yes. Okay. All right, moving along. For a tuition and fee rate change, there are many data points to consider, including information about our peer group. We look at 7 other colleges with similar characteristics, such as student enrollment, student headcount, academic programs, contact hour generation, full and part-time students. I want to point out a couple of things from this schedule. The student fall 2018 headcount ranges from 8,466 to 11,867, with Del Mar leading the group with 11,867. 3 of the 8 colleges have the largest number of students enrolled in technical programs, which DMC places 3rd highest with a 30% student enrollment. 5 of the 8 colleges have 70% or more part-time student enrollment, with DMC leading the group at 78%. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity for the colleges. I think there's been discussions around student housing. This would definitely have an impact. This initiative would definitely have an impact in changing or balancing between part-time versus full-time students.
Yeah, Regents, that number right there, the number of full-time students, the percentage of 22%, that translates to commuter college. That's what we are. We're a part-time commuter college, and the opportunities are built into our strategic plan with strategies leading up to these types of opportunities for our students to take more classes, spend more time on task, time in the classroom. That is an effort that we believe is in front of us, and we are making strides towards that, starting with our new plan that points in that direction. So the other colleges, I think Central Texas College, that's the college in Killeen that serves, or outside Killeen that serves the military base there, Fort Hood and the like. So there's a big commuter population there, obviously. North Central is a small, that's up in Gainesville. It's got, I believe it has housing as well. All the others I know, except South Plains. Most of these, my point is, with the bigger numbers, I look at Tyler, where I was before, at 49%. We're talking about a college that has over 1,000 beds, that has a very traditional university feel, and it's just a very different profile, a very different set of services that are offered to the students. So anyway, that number 22% is what we're targeting to raise.
Yes, sir. Okay, good. And then one of my favorite numbers here in the schedule is the contact hour production. We're up there. We have the 3rd largest contact hour production. That translates to revenue dollars for this institution. Do I have any questions on this?
Just one more comment, Mr. Garcia. When we were looking at this and putting these numbers together last week, we looked at the technical programs and the academic programs, and you look at the percentages there of technical to academic, and then you look at it. So our synthesis of these data said that the technical students are taking more classes on average than the quote academic programs. Okay, this is very important data for our strategies as we look at them. And you know, on average, our students are taking 2.8 hours, it's 2.8, I think, or excuse me, not 2.8 classes, it's 2.5 classes or something like that.
Yeah, so the average is about eight and a half credit hours.
There you go, I'm
So-
sorry.
So
There you
that's
go.
how I
There you
think
go.
about
Yes.
8.5 credit hour production
Yeah,
on
so
the average
that-
per student.
Yeah, and so when you're starting to think that full-time, you know, is 12 hours and the opportunity to package those things, scheduling is going to be a big one, is going to be a big topic that we're broaching. The 8-hour,
Pathways, you know, and
pathways, the
those-
8-week scheduling, the 8-week courses scheduling, and all of these strategies are going to be conducive to enabling the students to stay here, stay on campus, take more classes, and shrink that time to completion.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, so, all right. Very good. All right, this next slide includes student affordability indicators. In summary, the Del Mar student has the least amount of student debt, and on the average, our student receives more financial aid relative to a student enrolled at most of our peer institutions. On the average, our student receives $4,307 in financial aid, which includes foundation scholarship awards, federal Pell, SEOG, and student loans. Very minimal student loans, by the way. On the average, the Del Mar student carries the least amount of debt at $12,059 relative to our peer group. For the fall term, the Del Mar student borrows on the average $2,979, which is the second lowest amount relative to a student enrolled at our peer group. The last point I want to bring up is that 38% of our students receive federal financial aid. We view this as an opportunity which the college has already taken steps in addressing. This includes onboarding an outreach specialist to increase this rate. And it's my understanding that this specialist is actually going to the different high schools and engaging the students and telling them what are the benefits of applying for financial aid. And the numbers speak for themselves. Right.
That person is amongst the outreach team that we have. That's not the only person. It's a
Yes.
very specialized skill set that we hired this person for.
All right. Okay, so I think it's also important to understand how our, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you, on the 38% of the students that receive financial aid, that includes the Pell Grant and student loans and Miss Mary's foundation. It's only 38%. For some reason, I thought it was higher.
38% of our students receive some form of financial aid. That includes, financial aid includes amount from the foundation, Pell, SEOG, and, you know, fortunate for us, there's a lot of money coming into this institution that comes in different pieces. Those are just the major components that we see.
Yeah, and I understand that, but for some reason, I've always been under the impression that it was more than 38%. I thought like 60%.
Can you go back to that slide? Where
Yes.
Let's. I'm with you all, and I want to make sure we didn't.
Here you go.
I
Right
thought it
there.
was-
So this is coming off of the iPads
Yeah.
report. So 38% students receiving financial aid right there.
That's Pell. That's Pell only.
Okay.
Yeah. Somewhere, I think that's Pell.
I can see Pell, but not Miss Mary's.
We'll go back and
Foundation.
double verify that, because I'm pretty sure it's Pell. It is.
Okay, so a little bit more on the schedule itself.
Yeah.
38% of our students receive federal financial aid. On the average, for the Pell, it's 4,307. A little bit, two different data points.
Yeah.
So essentially my population, in a student enrollment of 100, 38 students qualify for some type of form of financial aid. The 4,307 represents the average financial aid to a student. That could be a combination of any of the 3 or 4 major components I just mentioned.
Yeah, at that first number, 38% has been a longstanding number that
Yeah.
we're working towards increasing.
Yeah.
And that's a low number
It is a
for
low
us. And
number.
when you start looking at Laredo and the others that
Right.
that are receiving Pell, of course, Laredo doesn't offer loans at all. It's kind of a unique situation there. But that 38% is, if I'm more than certain, is Pell. And we're working on raising that number, absolutely. And that's part of that specialist outreach person. Mr. Bennett has a question.
Mr. Bennett, yes, sir.
Do only 9% of our students get student loans?
That's correct. Reported in iPads, 9% of our students are applying for student loan. Not that they don't qualify, two different things. I think our students qualify for a lot more. It's just getting them to understand the program and encourage them to apply early and say these are the benefits for at least submitting the application.
So when the 9% apply, is the $12,059, is that the average of that 9%?
So at the end of the tenure of our students, when they move on to a 4-year institution, they're taking away with them a debt of $12,000 on the average.
The 9% that did get a loan?
The 9% that did get a loan.
So the 91% that didn't get a loan go away with zero?
Go away with zero borrowing, that is correct.
Okay.
Yep, mostly grants and so forth. And there's another number that's not in here that's about 70% of our students receive some form of aid, including scholarships. Those are the two big numbers, two different takeaways. This is a much more micro level and focused view of what our students do. But there's a big number that says 70% of our students participate in some form of aid. Mostly they're receiving, there's two things going on here. And we were talking about this earlier. We're talking about the cash basis society that we have. Our students bring lots. And I mean, they pay with cash. The other point is that they're looking for monies that they don't have to give back and pay back, which is a smart consumer step in many ways. And you know, when you look at Laredo that offers just no possibility of that chance, I mean, there's a lot of wisdom behind that. I think that blade probably cuts two ways. But again, our students come and they pay as they go. Yeah. That's the large majority of them.
We're in good shape then, according to the 60 by 30 goal of 60%. Is that?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, yeah. I mean,
goal is for them not to exceed 60% of debt.
On the debt side, oh yeah, okay. On the debt side, yeah, we're very low on debt side, all things considered. When we think about how, as we're considering, let me kind of go back. What we're considering here is, you know, we're talking about, you know, the implications of tweaking and adjusting the student charges here. How affordable can we maintain? You know, it's a balancing act. And yes, we remain. I've heard on more than one occasion several of y'all say what a bargain we are, what a value we are in terms of pricing. We remain at less than a third than the regional universities, and certainly way less than the flagships that many of our students are heading towards. And you know, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the affordability and the practices of our students, the migration patterns and the persistence patterns of our students with regards to their finances. So yeah, we're doing good. We're keeping the debt low, but at the same time, what I also don't want to lose sight of is that, you know, when we're talking about $4,337 for one of our students, that's an immense amount of money. That's an immense amount of money. That is a huge amount of money for our students. When we're talking about annually to be you know, taking or experiencing Del Mar College. And so we all know that. And I know how sensitive each one of you all are, Regents. I've spoken to every one of you all many times, several times at least, about this topic. Affordability is at the core of our existence as a community college. It's one of our philosophical underpinnings with regards to affordability, and we certainly advocate that we remain there. I mean, we have lots of room to go up, but the whole balancing act is keeping it balanced with our appropriations and our taxes, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
Dr. Scamia, I was questioning the 38% because I know often times I've heard you say that, you know, are about 70%, 65, 70% of our students get some type of financial aid. That's why I was questioning that.
Yes, ma'am. And that's all inclusive of grants and scholarships and some form of aid, some form of assistance, be it merit or need-based. Yeah, that's the big encompassing umbrella term.
Yeah.
So.
I also want to add, as part of the opportunities that I see also is that, I think we want to, I think we should be at what Laredo's at 54%, right? But I suspect that, part of the application process is sharing information. And so when it comes to sharing personal information, you got to develop that trust. And so that's part of the work that's ahead of us, is developing the trust and say, look, it's going to benefit you and you can trust us with your information. So those are just different ways of addressing this, I guess. Okay.
Excuse me. Now, from what I understand, one of the other meetings we had was that at a certain year, I don't know, 2 years from now, that all the schools, the high schools, are going to be, it's going to be mandatory that they fill out that financial aid forms. Is this correct?
That's correct. That's current.
Okay.
That's current law.
And so good. The good thing about it is, like, Dr. Scamilla is saying, is that, Pell Grants financial aid, they don't pay that back.
Correct.
So, the loans are kind of like the last resort we want. We don't want the kids to get out owing money when they graduate. And so anyway, but there's different types of loans, the Stafford loan, and they got Perkins loan, and one of them is less than the other one. And if you graduate in education, they won't even make you pay it back, So the thing is that financial aid they don't pay that back. And there's different grants from there, which is the TPEC and the SCOG. So once they sign up for and they get the Pell or the financial aid, but the TPEC, I know, is first come, first served. There's only so much money allocated for that. So the earlier they fill out the forms, the earlier they put them in, then they're going to be able to qualify for that.
Yeah. Mr. Salinas, I think you're referring to is financial literacy, which is a component of our Title IV grant funding. There's some initiatives that are going to be planned around that to educate our students and say, these are your options. It's coming down the pipe.
And the new law that you're referring to, Regent Salinas, is going to be interesting to see how it impacts the state. I think as we're modeling Louisiana's efforts in that area, the numbers show that participation in federal financial aid after that mandatory, if you will, application period made a huge impact on the state, and I think it's going to make the same here. So we're standing by. We'll see what happens this year.
Because I think one of the things, probably more than anything, that will happen is that the kids now, the parents know about this. They got to know somehow, in the kids, and now they're going to be knowing earlier than before. So this is something that's really going to help our kids, and I think that's very important. And I think that's what we're trying to do here at Del Mar. Is we're trying to do everything possible that we can to make it affordable for our kids from our region. And I think that's huge. And I think the more that the people know what we're doing here is trying to get their kids so they can succeed, leave Del Mar and go to a four-year school somewhere and be, productive citizens. So I think that's great. I think it's
and,
good.
and go straight to work, making very nice livings. A lot of them that are earning those 2-year terminal degrees and venturing out into the workforce are doing extremely well, and not just in the industrial programs.
And you know what, Dr. Scranton? And the thing is that, like what we have over there in the West Campus.
Yes.
Wow, all of that is awesome, because you know what, a lot of kids, I think that if that's something that they love, they're going to do real good. And that's what we've got over there in the West Campus, all the technical work and all that. That is awesome.
Yes, sir.
I've got some young men that I see and stuff. I said, wow, they're doing a great job over there, no question. And I think that's a lot of the kids, they cannot just go and take English, math, science. They can't, but they can go get some kind of certificate over there. And, and they'll be very successful just with that. Because I know if I call an air conditioner guy to my house, he's going to charge me just to come. And that's going to ask me, did you push the restart button? I said, what restart button? He'll push it for about 10 seconds. He said, okay, go turn your air on. Boom. I said, wow, so we got some good kids. Not only that, in the nursing program, I can't believe it.
That's a $100 air conditioning question he just asked you. Yeah. Thank you for your 10 minutes of time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next slide, I think it's important to know what our student fee structure is all about. So the general use fee is used to fund the cost of transcripts, graduation, ground improvements, technology center, campus security, and parking. The current semester rate per credit hour is $12. The building use fee is used to maintain, improve, and equip campus facilities. The current semester rate per credit hour is $12. The matriculation fee is used to fund the cost of creating and maintaining student records. The current semester rate per credit hour is $12. The instructional support fee is used to fund the operations of the writing, math, reading, and other student learning labs. The current semester rate per enrollment student is $70. The student service fee is collected on behalf of student government, and it is used to fund student cultural programs, intramural sports, student club activities, the student newspaper, and the Viking Food Pantry and other related student government initiatives. The current semester rate per enrolled student is $15. Last, tuition is used to fund all other operating activities of the institution. The current semester rate per credit hour is $67. To the right, I have a little graph over here, a little table that hopefully puts things into perspective. For a 3 credit hour semester, we are looking at a semester rate per credit hour of $309. You add these other fees, that is on a per student enrollment basis, on a semester basis of $85, for a total cost of $394 for a class with 3 semester hours. Pretty reasonable in my opinion. Anyway, so any questions? Okay, good. All right, let's talk about the tuition rate changes over a 10-year period. So this slide highlights instances of student sticker shock, whereby changes to the tuition and fee have been as much as $18 per semester hour. Here's the background to it. Changes from 2011 to 2014 has been in response to reduced state appropriations funding that totaled $2.1 million for this period of time. The change in 2019 had been driven in part at the request of student government in order to fund the Del Mar College Viking Pantry Initiative. The heartfelt initiative assists students with limited food options. The change in 2018 had been in response to changes in the cost of living increases in 2016, 17, and 18, and a move towards a strategy of having modest year-over-year changes in the tuition rate. Okay. Moving on. All right. So DMC continues to deliver the best value option with an annual cost of attendance of $3,260 cost. This is based on a 30 semester hour for 2 terms. Earlier I mentioned that the average financial aid award is $4,307, which will result in a $1,047 financial aid refund for qualifying students. Please note that the maximum annual Pell Award is $6,195, which means that a qualifying student can receive an additional $1,891 for a total refund of $2,938 to cover living expenses.
What about books? Is that covered in the first?
These figures do not include books. Show that $2,938, the maximum Pell Award, would be used towards the book. Yeah, it's very difficult for me to quantify the average book cost. It varies.
Time.
Yeah. Okay. So, moving on. So once again, the key takeaway from this presentation is that student affordability and minimizing sticker shock with a steady and modest tuition increases are 2 of the many strategies for consideration when proposing rate changes. I also want to highlight the importance of the institution, fiscal health, and long-term sustainability is also important. These can be driven by new and emerging programs, student services, retaining and attracting talented employees. So the table on the right illustrates the annual revenue generated for every $1 rate change to the semester credit hour rate. The reported cost of living adjustment for reported by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board is 1.65, which would be equivalent to a 2% increase in the semester rate, and translating that to $343,000 in revenue just to keep up with the rate of inflation. So the next step is for the college to present to the board in February a recommendation on changes to tuition and fee rate structure for the 2021 fiscal year. I now open it up for any questions, concerns, or discussions on the matter.
Dual credit. What's our rate for dual credit? Is it $99 a course?
Yes, sir.
With no
3-hour
fees?
course.
With no fees?
No, sir. It depends on the type of class that they're taking. There's some associated materials fees and those kinds of things. So if they're taking a welding class, there's some associated fees, but not the traditional. Well, and then there's it depends on what class they're taking, if I'm not mistaken. I know I'm not mistaken on that.
Okay, so I'm seeing that the dual credit hours are going up exponentially. Our contact hours.
The number of hours, not the dollars.
Not the dollars.
Yes.
So that means our mix is changing. So we're getting more $99 courses in there.
I would say that's pretty much the trend throughout the state. I mean, that's pretty much.
I think it's nationwide.
Okay.
So
I've only seen the data for the state, but I also want to say that we're probably at the low end relative to our peer group.
Here's another concern that I've got. Most of our students come and they have to take developmental courses. The number of contact hours for developmental courses is going down. Yes. So does that mean we're getting less new students?
Now, that's most likely attributed to our co-requisite requirement by the state that has impacted the contact hours. So probably the same number of contact hours are in there, but now that the mandate is that they're coming in and are required to take a co-requisite course in an associated applied field, those hours are probably being shifted over are being represented in the credit hour side.
Okay.
And so that's really that anomaly. That's one of those state mandates that have come down that have impacted developmental ed. There was some discussion about how to do that, and I know, frankly, our faculty and staff struggle with this whole notion of moving that in. We're now at we're in a percentage. We're a roll-in percentage by year, and that's probably what you're seeing there in that trend. I'm more than sure that that's the impact.
That makes sense.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm seeing, though, is if we make a 2% change, a $2 change, it's not going to impact our revenue by 2% because we're moving more and more towards the dual credit.
I think it's already built into the numbers. It's based on our revenues that we're generating today. So do I expect our dual credit enrollment to grow by 20, 30, 40% in the next 12 months? I'm not too sure about that. Yeah. I think we're pretty much tapped already.
But Regents, we want to hear. We want to hear your perspectives. The cost, the balancing act with dual credit. Regent Bennett, let me just be the first one to say, I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. We've been talking about this over the course of the past few years about what are we going to do with dual credit and how are we going to afford to continue to do it. Well, what we know is we continue to have, by way of contact hours, I know the estimates were about $880-something thousand a year that we would generate from year to year on an annual basis from contact hours generated in dual credit, and that was supposed to be rolled back into the formula and to keep affordability. What we'll continue to do is analyze the other options out there. That's the competition word. What we have to watch for is if we go too high on competition, where there are other institutions that are offering it for as much or as little as we're offering it, or less, even free, then we open up ourselves to losing those students. Now, and we also are not fooling ourselves. We know that those students who are participating in dual credit, their time at Del Mar College is largely as a dual credit student and moving on to the universities. We know the data. We know what the data is doing. And those are students of ours. Those are still valued students of ours. We get all that. And this is why we're having the conversation today. We want to hear about your opinions on the $99.99 for tuition for dual credits, that affordability factor, including out-of-district students. I want to hear from y'all. That's what this conversation is about. Of course, we're going to have another one in February. We get to have some more fun in February with this topic, but that's the whole point with this. The affordability factor, when we set that rate some time ago, I'll tell you, I really wanted to do it for no cost, because there are districts out there doing it for no cost, many big districts, but I knew that was taking it to an extreme financially, especially at the time we were where we were at several years ago. But this is the time. This is the time to talk about it. Give me your opinions. Give me your thoughts. Give me your ideas, so that when we're going back and doing analyses and comparisons, we can come back with an adjustment, or come back with, after doing analysis, and say, Regents, we can go up, to a whole $100 instead of that $99.99, but no more than that. I'm being facetious. The point is, we need to hear from you. We need to hear what you've got to say. We need to think about this. We are working on this. We think we're in a good place right now, but we have open minds for whatever your perspectives are.
Dr. Scamilla.
Yes.
I think we need to remember that one of the reasons the community is very supportive of Del Mar is because of dual credit, because I know for a fact, I know parents that they don't intend to send their children to Del Mar, but they love Del Mar because, oh yes, my son is taking a class there at Del Mar, the dual credit classes. And I really think that is a plus for us. And may I switch gears on the developmental classes?
Certainly.
Have you ever considered maybe teaching some of those developmental classes over at the high schools in the afternoons? I know there for a fact that there's seniors that have enough credits to graduate, and they go home at noon. And I'm thinking that maybe, perhaps some of those students may be the ones coming to us in need of the developmental classes. Have you ever considered maybe teaching some of those at the campuses? And this way, when they enroll at Del Mar, they enroll at Del Mar for credit classes.
So it's a very interesting comment, and it is a scenario that we've thought about many times over. I'm going to take your question under advisement and really go back and work with and defer to the experts in the area of expertise and of developmental ed to talk about what our strategies are and what our approaches are. It's our relationships with school districts are very sensitive around those subjects. We're waiting for them to come to us, and as we always talk about, right? As I always say, we get to accept 100% of every class the way they are. And so I know what you're saying. You're saying reach back at an earlier time to do that. I will say that there are, I think, secondary effects of the students who are coming into dual credit, who are testing into the credit classes. And I think there's an awakening amongst the high school students that has been kind of churning for the past solidly 10, 15 years as we've been growing, especially in the past 6 years that we've been growing after the legislation that opened it up. I think there's some secondary effects, and I think that's what's growing those numbers of dual credit, because they're hearing, the younger siblings are hearing about the older siblings taking these classes, and there's more preparation going on that way. I don't mean to go off too far on a tangent, but your point is taken. It's a very complex relationship that we have with our school districts, with developmental ed and dual credit and the like. I'm just going to take these comments and go back to the instructional areas to the instructional areas and talk more about it so that we can come back with more ideas and synthesis. The other thing is that we're going to have to go back and see what the current rates of reimbursement are for contact hours and to see what last base year produced specifically for going back to the dual credit students. I know that 885 was tweaked up. That number is a couple of years old. You and I have talked about that number a couple of times.
Another thing about the dual credit, who pays that tuition?
So it varies. Families do. Sometimes school districts do. It depends what type of the curriculum they're participating in. Sometimes the school districts will pay for through Perkins or some sort of federal grant. They'll pay for all the industrial technical programs. Sometimes they'll pay for all of it, but it just depends. It depends on the size of the school. When we're talking about McMullen County, little, very, very small versus what we have with CCISD. We have variations all throughout, and then it just depends. School districts, it depends on the school districts both, and the families pay.
It looks like we're asking the taxpayers to subsidize the dual credit.
So I think many of our programs are, to use the term subsidized, are subsidized on many different areas. We have very expensive programs throughout that are very focused that we cannot charge enough for. And so when you balance out the budget, yes, when we're talking about volume in certain areas, they cover the costs of other programs. Dual credit is one of those. But we have many others who don't, or that don't balance out. So the subsidized word, if I'm going to use it, is an umbrella term that we use to balance the overall budget, and not just that area of the curriculum, but many other programs at our college, several other. And I'll be glad to break those out.
So I'm also introduce another perspective from a macroeconomic perspective. You read on the newspaper that there's always a gap between the labor market industry, what they want to see, and the educated workforce. Right now Corpus Christi is growing, the economy is growing, and it's changing. And so right now we're dependent on one specific industry, and so it's going to be, in my opinion, when I look at the city of Detroit, they're wanting to bring in industry. And how do you track industry? Well, you got to have an educated workforce. Think of this dual credit as an investment today to bridge the gap between industry and an educated workforce for tomorrow. That's going to make this city a little bit more vibrant, and more importantly, possibly have a positive uptick in the appraised value that has an impact in our revenue. Just food for thought.
Is that the reason that we don't charge out-of-district tuition for dual credit anything more than what we charge in district?
That was an effort. Regent Rivas, Mr. Garcia wasn't here when we set that. That was an effort to ramp up on dual credit several years ago. Because when we looked at the students who were, what we found was the students who were from further away out of the district per se were participating in dual credit. We found out that they were, and I think the data still holds, they were more likely to transfer into Del Mar College than our local students within our tax base who took dual credit, who were likely to go on to university. I think that data still holds. But the notion was, and again, this is very appreciated, I'm really appreciating this conversation. The notion was to open it up to all students, primarily in the service area. And we've gone beyond that to pick up the capacity of other school districts, other college districts that aren't accessible in certain areas, such as McMullen County, which is not in our service area. It's a little bitty school that needs us to be there. So we're doing a lot of things out of the mission of the community college, and we are, Regent Bennett, very sensitive to that notion of balancing one program with another. Again, we do that in many areas, but out of district is one consideration for variance in the fees.
About the taxpayers supporting.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand. We're making notes, I assure you.
Excuse me. Dr. Escamilla were talking about the contact hours and then the dual credit classes, right? There's no question that those dual credit courses are huge. They're huge for our kids, for our community, the parents. They're not expensive, and you know what? No, my grandkids have all gotten that. And so, no, this is something huge for our area, the dual credit, no doubt about it. Now, the contact hours, you're talking about the contact hours, and I've always wanted to know about the contact hours since I first got in here. So obviously there is, when a kid comes to school here, he goes to classes, we're going to generate contact money, right?
Correct. And that's during the funding years, or what's called the base years.
Mm-hmm.
When we take the snapshot of our total enrollment of the number of contact hours, seat hours for students, including dual credit students, that's the time we generate, aside from the $100 or the $99.99 and the associated fees for the specific classes, that we do generate that bucket of contact hours. And again, that's the number we're going to come back to you with. Do you have a number?
Yes, I just did a rough example that if even on a small class of 15 students, and if you take the average contact hour reimbursement rate for the average number of contact hours per student, plus the $99, you generate over the cost of the faculty instructor. And so we could give you a report that shows you pretty much a break-even analysis just on direct dollars expensed for instruction to revenue. When you take in contact hour reimbursement plus the $99, you're at break-even.
And we'll triple verify that whole.
But I don't understand that. What are we talking about? That it's going to help with the teacher, whoever's teaching that or whatever?
Pays for the salary.
So from a break-even analysis, what she's saying is that the revenue that can be generated from the state, and when we report back the results of our performance, that we're going to get reimbursed on a specific formula-based driven rate, and we're pretty much breaking even at the end of the day. But I think a more comprehensive financial analysis is needed to really present a good picture of what that means to this institution overall. And that's going to take a little bit more time to put it together.
It's a very complex scenario when you're talking about the other universities, other colleges, because other colleges, they can go call somebody. If we're teaching, for instance, if we're teaching an online class to XYZ ISD down the road, and they don't like our price, and it's an online class, they'll sit there and say, well, I can go up here, and there'll be other colleges right up the highway, or even a few hours down the road, that'll pick up those students.
Yeah.
And so we've got to decide philosophically, how we're going to treat those students and provide for those students. So it gets really, really complex. It's a lot of fun, I assure you.
It is. So Lenora just reminded me too that if I have a 10 seats, and I'm only occupying right now 7 out of the 10 seats, the dual credit fills in that seat. So we're adding to the capacity that we haven't really maxed out yet. So just again, it's very complex. There's so many variables. I think it's time we need to spend more time analyzing the data and see what makes sense. Okay. Well, that concludes. That was fun. Any other questions?
It was almost as fun as your tie.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. College President's Report.
Very quickly, Regents, ladies and gentlemen, on December 2nd, we had our Southside celebration. Thank you to all who attended. That was a lot of fun on the South Side. We kicked off with a beautiful day. Chamber of Commerce weather to support a celebration whereby we were able to talk about the first campus in the college's history in 60 years. And so thank you all again to all the faculty and staff and students, both current college students and all the younger students from the high schools who came to participate. It was a wonderful day. And then just quickly, this 13th is our fall graduation. And that'll be at the American Bank Center. Our keynote speaker is, oh dear gosh. Dotson Lewis. I didn't even hear you, but Dotson Lewis. I'm sorry, dear friend of mine, Dotson. If you're watching me, you can razz me when you see me. He's a great friend. He's a great community member. He's got all kinds of fascinating stories, and he's just a great friend of the community that we look forward to hearing from him. One other item that I'd like to add is I'll add that in calendaring. But that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Escamilla. Regents report. Mr. Gabe Rivas will give us a report on Packery Channel and TERS number 2.
Here's number 2. I'm going to combine 2 meetings that we've had, but there's a lot of talk going on right now about TERS, and let me just go back and give a little bit of history. Not a lot. I just want to state that when 2001, when this TERS started, we called it the Packery Channel Tax Reinvestment Zone at the time. The assessed value of the land was about $100 million. Since then, today, the assessed value is about $500 million. The whole island is not under the TERS, just as a reminder. There's about, I believe, 16,000 acres on the island. The assessed value is about $2.2 billion on the island, whereas the TERS area, which is mainly around the dunes and around Packery Channel, the assessed value is only $513 million. Like I said, that went up 5 times since we started this Packery Channel TERS. It's only 1,932 acres. Misconception is the whole island is under the TERS or the Packery Channel, and it's not that taxable area. The last 2 meetings that we had a meeting in November that we finalized, finally, the approval of the Park Road Bridge, Road 22 Bridge. And a lot of that was waiting on the developers. The developers, again, for the last 19 years, when we started this, they had promised a river walk type of atmosphere over there. And of course, that never happened because some of the developers went under. And now we're waiting to see what they're going to do. They're going to be responsible for the canal, not the city, not the reinvestment zone. And we're going to be responsible for the Park Road 22 Bridge. The bridge, like everything else here in town, from originally we had allocated about $4 million for that. The bids all came in over, and we had to actually come up with another $2,884,000. All of that has already been approved, and it's probably being approved right now by the city council, and I don't see the city council not approving it because everybody that sits on the Packery Channel Board is all city council members. Greg Smith is the chairman, but the mayor does sit on that. And Barbara Canales represents the county on that. She was actually at the meeting today. And Flower Bluff Independent School District has a rep on there. I represent Del Mar, and we also have a representative from the Nueces County Hospital District, Sylvia Tryon Oliver. But like I said, that's basically it. We've completed everything that we had. The Island Strategic Planning Committee had like 6 things that they wanted done in that area, and we call that the 6-pack. And a lot of that has already been accomplished or is being worked on. That's the restroom facilities on the Packery Channel, the dredging and beach nourishment, the pavilion that we built out on the channel, and we have to do a survey every year of the channel conditions and shoreline preservation. And the last one on that was Park Road 22 Bridge. The 6-pack has already been either started or completed or getting ready to get underway. For a long time, this committee would meet maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years. Now it seems like we've met about 5 times this year alone. So I think being caught up in a lot of these projects, there won't be a lot of other meetings. And I'd be available to try to answer any questions that you might have. Every time we meet, we kind of redo everything that we're going through, what we've accomplished and what we still need to get done. But this bridge was the main thing that we've waited until the developers actually put some money up and came up with their plan. And like I said, by the time we started this to the time that we actually implemented it, costs have gone up almost $3 million. But we've already committed to doing it, so we're going to do it. And that's it on the last 2 meetings that I've had over there.
Any questions for Mr.
Any
Rivas?
questions on this or anything with the committee?
Thank you, Regent Rivas. We had a few regents attend the 2019 THECB Leadership Conference in Austin, November 21st. Any of the regents care to make comment on their experience at this conference?
Unless you want to go first, Libby?
Sure, I'll keep mine very brief. Again, as the newest region, I really appreciated the opportunity. Most of the training, obviously, you all have already been through. I did share with you all some handouts from the ethics training that was part of the conference. Some of those I think we've seen before. Certainly, those of you who have been around have seen them, but they were good reminders to me, even though I had just taken some of that training earlier this year. And it's also a good reminder for me, particularly in the areas of differentiating between governance versus management, and making sure, you know, that I fully understand my role as a regent and how that compares to Dr. Escamilla's role, and just making sure that I'm behaving appropriately. So I really appreciated the opportunity to attend.
And like Libby said, a lot of it was repetitious. We've gone through a lot of this before. The main focus of the conference is always going to be 60 by 30, I guess until the year 2015 comes along. But we went over that quite a bit. A takeaway that I probably brought back from that, from all the different sessions that we attended, we do have a new commissioner of the coordinating board. His name is Dr. Harrison Keller, and I believe he just took over recently. He gave his first keynote address, and I emailed it to everybody because I thought it was very interesting. But he's very realistic. He had some good suggestions and some good things, including the idea that 60 by 30 may or may not be everything that it's intended to be. He says it's not a big secret that educational attainment among the younger population is not necessarily a mandate, but it's a goal that we all have anyway. So I emailed you the speech or the keynote that he gave, and I asked you to look at it slowly. It's a long one, but it was interesting to hear something, a fresh perspective anyway, on the 60 by 30 and the role of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So that's it.
Anybody else?
Carol was there, but she's not here.
Okay.
She's the only other one that went.
Thank you, Regent Rivas. Under pending business, all the items have been covered up to this point. Under the consent agenda items, if there's any item under consent agenda that the regents want to remove, please let me know. Otherwise, do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Chair.
So we have a motion by Susan and second by Mr. Gabriel Rivas.
I made the motion, she seconded. It doesn't matter.
I was looking that way. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, in keeping the agenda moving on the regular agenda items, discussion of possible action related to the 2019 annual audit presented as comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR. Miss Bridget Cook.
Yes, sure. So first want to, before we bring up Bridget, I want to also thank Mr. John Johnson and Kathy West, who has been very instrumental in assisting with providing the support and putting the whole financial statements for the audit process. With that said, now I'm just going to turn it over to Ms. Cook, who's going to talk about our the results of our annual audited financial statements.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, we've completed the audit, and we're passing out a letter that's my normal standard letter for those charged with governance, which is y'all, in regard to the audit. It's the thing where we're supposed to communicate to you if we had any problems in the audit, and we did not. The main things I just want to point out are that, first of all, one of the required communications is whether you had changes in your accounting policies. And this year, we didn't have any major changes in the accounting policies that affected the college. Last year was GASB 75, so that's much better when we don't have all those changes. Also, it talks about things like estimates that are used, and one of the estimates that are the major estimate that's used by the college is in relation to the pension liabilities and the OPEB's liabilities. And I know y'all are pretty much familiar with those from prior years, so I'm just going to go right into my presentation. If I'm smart enough to figure out. Okay. Thank you. The audit contains the two different sections is the basic financial statements, which is the statement of net positions or a balance sheet, the statement of revenues and expenses and changes in net position, and notes to the financial statements. That's the basic financial statements. Additionally are the required supplemental information, which includes management's discussions and analysis. It's a narrative form of the financial statements. And that's a very good source because it gives you comparative information to look at the overall health of the college. Additionally, there's some other schedules that are required. The schedule of the college's shares of net pension and OPEB liability. These are, we are expressing an opinion on the financial statements, the basic financial statements. And I'm happy to say today that you have a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion, meaning that the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in compliance with GAAP. The required supplemental information and the MD&A, Management's Discussion and Analysis, we perform limited procedures on those to make sure they tie out with the financial statements. In addition to that, there are other schedules that are required by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. These are on the schedules A through B, which is a more detailed component of the net revenue and the expenses and the roll forward of your net assets, which is equity for the college. And the coordinating board provides us with the requirements of the format of the financial statements. And under GASB 34, you are required to have a business type activity model, which is the format of the financial statements. It's much like a business, so it's like a balance sheet and income statement. It's just called statement of net position. Also, we'll get into that you have 3 other reports. One on internal controls, one on the grants, the federal grants, and one on the state grants. All of those, which I'm happy to report, not giving you the punchline ahead of time, are clean. Some just basic highlights. The statement of net position, which is on page 44 of your reports or on page 152 if you had the board packet downloaded. So about the 300 pages that were linked in the board packet, I think the audit actually starts at like page 101. So we're 200 pages of the total board packet if you've downloaded that. So just some highlights. Your total assets and deferred outflows increased by $24 million. And that's mostly because of the construction and the increase in your net assets. And there's some other changes too. As an example, your current assets increased by $7.9 million, which is more cash that's put into short-term investments to fund the construction. The statement of net position or balance sheet is a point-in-time financial statement, which means it's as of a specific date, August 31st, 2019. And one thing I just wanted to, whenever I say the word deferred, I think everybody's eyes glaze over because it is kind of a confusing concept that's had a bigger impact on the college since the implementation of GASB 68 for pensions and GASB 75 for OPEBs or other post-employment benefits. So I wanted to point this out to you that your deferred outflows increased by 7.2 million. But the real way to look at this is that on your balance sheet, there's 3 different accounts that relate to pensions and 3 different accounts that relate to OPEBs. So there's 2 that are in the deferred outflows are on your assets section. It's actually in its own category. And the deferred inflows is in the liability section along with your net pension liability. And as an example, you can see that there's a bunch of swings here this year. So if you're looking at the spreadsheet I have up here, you see that your net pension liability went up by $9,764,000. But in essence, what that is you have actuarial changes each year. And a lot of those when they change the actuarial assumptions, like things like discount rate and your census information, those items go into your deferred inflows and outflows. So if you look at the net effect on your balance sheet at a point in time of August 31st, the pension liability is only up by $1 million. And then the same thing with your OPEBs, only it's the opposite way, probably because the actuarial assumptions on OPEBs last year was the first year that those were implemented. And when I say OPEBs, I mean other post-employment benefits, and that means health insurance. Okay, so for retirees. So the actuary, you are part of a multi-employer cost-sharing group, the Texas Retired Teachers, and TRS and ERS for the OPEBs. And so you're a part of a much bigger group, and each year they do a study. So the study as of the prior year measurement date is how these are calculated. And I don't want to get too complicated, but basically I really wanted to point out those 2 things, and that's that your overall pensions increased by 1.4 million, and your OPEBs actually decreased from last year. This is the 2nd year that they've done it, and I think there were a lot of things that they had to work out from the prior year as far as changing some of the assumptions. And there's a real detailed in the footnotes to the financial statements that goes over that and explains that. And that's probably one of the most confusing things when you look at your balance sheet, is the effect of those 2 categories, which is your primary estimates on the balance sheet. Do I want to stop and ask any questions? Okay. On the liabilities and deferred inflows, there's an increase of $3 million, and you have some major things that are offsetting that. There's an increase in payables, and it's just, since I said it's a point-in-time financial statement, so it's as of a specific date. It's just when you get those invoices and when you pay them. And since you had quite a few at August 31st, you had construction projects that were in progress. You had more liabilities that were accrued. And then that's offset by, on the liability side, that you had paid down about $12 million on your bond during the year. And then there's the other side of the OPEBs and the pension. Your net positions, which is your equity for a government, the big thing that increased is your net capital assets which increased due to the construction. You have more capital assets. Operating revenues increased by $1.6 million, and it's kind of a lot of different things. Your federal grants actually decreased by $1.1 million, mostly largely from the non-renewal of the TWC Adult Education Grant, but this is offset by several other local grants and investment income, which increased. Operating expenses decreased by a modest $140,000, and that's several different components, but the large ones are your salaries had a modest increase of $655,000, but employee benefits decreased by $2.9 million, which is mostly the OPEBs that increased, and it's just the adjustments on those large organizations the actuaries produce, and we have to adjust to them each year when they produce those numbers. And then other costs various costs increased by $2 million. And some of that is the furniture, equipment, technical building and equipment that were incurred that were not capitalizable in the current year. So non-operating revenue, the main components of that are taxes and your interest income, and basically your taxes did increase in both rate and mostly valuation, but also in rate. And your investment income increased this year as the portfolio, you have more commercial paper and a little higher interest rates on the portfolio. Also, you held more cash because of the bonds that were issued in the prior year. So that's an increase of 3.5 on the investment income, and your ad valorem taxes combined for both maintenance and increased by 8.1 million. So that brings us to the end of the basic financial statements, and in addition to that, you were required to express an opinion on the federal and state awards. And this is a requirement by the GAO. And the first report is the auditor's report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance and other matters. There's a lot of different rules that go into that report, and I am reporting to you today that we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting that we would consider to be material weaknesses, and that our tests disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that we would be required to report to you. So that's one report. We're talking about internal controls over financial reporting. And then in addition to that, we look at grants. That's a big part of our audit. And on page 139 is our report for the federal grants. And we're reporting on compliance with the grant agreements, internal control over compliance, and then there's a separate report for the state of Texas audit circular. And on both of those, there are clean opinions expressed. And just to give you kind of a overview, our audit report has a separate page that basically summarizes all of the findings. And it also lists the grants that we looked at. And I did kind of a quick look at them, since most of it is student aid type grants that we really are required to look at, are your major grants. And we looked at 94% of your total federal grants and 77% of your state grants. And that's about all I needed to tell you. There is no management letter found. We didn't find any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report in that. And the report will be submitted to the GFOA, which is a certificate that the college has gotten for excellence in financial reporting. So this report will be submitted in your audit. You see the one from the prior year that was received, and it's a great organization that basically takes your financial statements and compares it, has a detailed review by someone in addition to myself and my firm. And anyway, are there any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
We had basically $21.7 million in net income. How much of that's related to the changes in actuarial assumptions? I tried to figure it out myself. That's why I'm asking.
Well, I would say it's not. It's probably about $3 million. I think it's the net about because the main thing is that one of the differences with the changes in the actuarial numbers, the reason that they flow through the deferred inflows and the deferred outflows is that those get amortized when they're actuarial differences. Those get amortized over a 10-year period. But one of the things that we did note is that your OPEBs, the expense for your other benefits was up a lot last year when GASB 75 was implemented because of that transaction when we first booked that. I know that's a very detailed question.
And I tried to follow both footnotes number 11 and 16, and I only had the weekend, so
I know.
it was not nearly enough time.
Yeah, I would love to talk about this because, I mean, most people don't want to know. But I would love to have, like, if we wanted to do a workshop. There is the one section that I would say, I think I have it listed here. If you look at page 74, that kind of shows you what comprises the deferred outflows of resources. I don't know if that's going to really answer your question, other than that you can see the change in comparison to the prior year of the changes in actuarial assumptions.
How much did our net liability go down?
The liability, if I can go back. See, I think this kind of shows you that you're on the pension liability, it went up. It's just that the outflows changed as well. So net, it's not near as high as it sounds when you look at the pension liability. And that's really just it's just that when they change those assumptions, because it's the rules regarding the actuary, they actually amortize those over 10 years. So it doesn't really affect you as much because they're putting more into the pension and less into the deferred inflows and outflows.
I guess I'll study it more.
No, but feel free to call me too, and we can chat if you need to.
Thank you.
But I mean, the numbers that are included in your report and those adjustments are coming from the TRS and ERS records, and so I mean that's properly adjusted.
They just pass it down to us and we book the entry, don't they?
Well, it's a little more complicated, but they have a website that you can go down to, and your staff actually goes through, and I reviewed that, and my staff, we check to make sure that all the numbers are carried properly. And I think they also have another expert that looks at it as well, just to make sure that your proportionate share, I mean, like, that's one of the things that affected you as well, the proportionate share of the overall groups of colleges, that changed as well. So I know, clear as mud, right? Any other questions? So nobody wants to have a workshop?
Just you and Ed.
Just you and Ed.
You and Ed. We don't want a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Okay, so do I hear a motion to accept?
Approve the report.
We have a motion by Regent Rivas. Do I hear a second? Second. Second by Ms. Libby. All in favor? Aye. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, forgive me. Public comments on this agenda item? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Discussion and possible action related for recommendations for the 2016 bond professional, Mr. August Alfonso.
Team coming up.
Good afternoon.
It's okay.
Recommendations for the 2016 bond professional services. Background. On May 14, 2019, the board approved to award a contract to Fulton Coastcon as the general contractor for the South Campus Phase 1A, Package 1, for central plant, utilities, and excavation. On August 5, 2019, the college issued RFQ number 2019-20 for architectural and/or engineering services to support the various Del Mar College projects. On August 27, 2019, the board approved and authorized administration to proceed with contract negotiations with Fulton Coast Con, and if necessary, to proceed to the next offerer in the order of the selection ranking until the contract was reached or all proposals were rejected. On October 1st, 2019, the board approved to award a contract to Fulton Coast Con as the general contractor for the South Campus Phase 1A, Package 2, for building the main, STEM, culinary arts, and site improvements. Due to the various activities, construction activities associated with the above, the administration is seeking 3 action items for board consideration and approval. Number 1, to approve consultant recommendation, negotiate, and enter a contract with Amtech Solutions Incorporated for building envelope services. Number 2, to approve consultant recommendation, negotiate, and enter a contract with 3D Collins Cleary Zimmerman Engineers for building commissioning services. And number 3, to approve consultant recommendation, negotiate, and enter a contract with Rock Engineering and Testing Laboratory Incorporated for construction material testing and geotechnical services. Do you have any questions?
So, Regents, before we move in, this is an aspect of the 2016 bond that is part of what we would call the administrative fees, and it is an owner's responsibility. It is different than any of the other packages from the 14 bond, in that these are specific responsibilities of the owner to seek the services of these three entities to do quality assurance and to be the owner's rep as we move into package 2 of the South Side location. Again, these people, these firms will all be reporting to us and testing materials, testing the envelope of the building, and testing mechanicals. On the mechanicals and the envelope, the importance for them now is that the importance for them to enter now is for them to begin reading plans and working with the development of the planning of the buildings. And for the materials testing, the importance for it is to continue testing the materials and the integrity of the drilling of the piles that are being established to firm up the foundation. And so this is, again, a different aspect, a different practice than the 16 bond, and it is the owner's responsibility. One other item, these 3 entities were selected through the IDIQ process, earlier established in August of this year for selection. These are smaller packages, if you will, and any questions you have, we had Paul come down from Houston. We've got Robert and Brett here to talk about these services. Again, these 3 entities would be reporting to the owners as the owner's responsibility for quality assurance.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Will we see the contract before we approve it?
So, there are specified amounts already pre-allocated in the budget. They're not to exceed a certain budgets, but going into negotiations, we're seeking the approval at this point. To answer your question, the idea was not to bring it back, until after, because they have been specified on the front end.
So I don't know if I'm approving a $200,000 contract or a $2.5 million contract.
You know what the maximum is.
Right.
I don't.
Well, it's somewhere along the line that information is, we've already approved that.
Yeah, it was approved a while back. We knew that would be part of the budget. Yeah, it is approved. It was a pre-approved part of the budget with a specific line in there. I can bring it to you after the fact or invite you over to the office and show you where we are. I know there, but there are things that we've got to protect at this point for conversation's sake, and I'll be glad to get with you individually to give you more detail.
So we're really approving a maximum amount because we already have with the budget, and we're approving this particular contract part.
To enter negotiations, yes.
Well, and actually enter into a contract with
Correct.
this particular person, but the other details are yours. Is that right?
Yeah, they were already approved. We knew that that'd be a tricky part. It's been a long time since we've had them, but they're too. I can say this: they are not to exceed the amounts that already were approved with it, that you all have already approved in the bigger contract, the bigger scope. In other words, they're specified by line.
So we've already approved them?
Yes.
And then you're asking us to approve them again?
See,
Approving
yes, absolutely.
The party, because
Yeah.
the party that we were contracting with had not been established.
This is what we were,
All right?
yes. These are all questions that we were contending with last week. We have approved the amounts. The board has approved the amounts. And at this point, we are looking to seek your approval to enter the negotiations with the respective firms that yes, the respective firms that we've had here. There are specified amounts already approved. I'll be glad to sit down with you after this.
Regents, any more questions?
Just to clarify this,
Can you,
the amounts have already been approved and will not change, is that correct?
correct. There's not to exceed
Maximum amount.
maximums.
The maximum.
The maximums will not change,
Yes,
and we've approved them.
yes, yes. We knew there would be some redundancies in this, and it's like I said, this is I called it the unicorn with regard to the 16 package. It's the only time we've come to you with this sort of request, but we wanted to, out of an abundance of caution, come back to you and share with you as much of this information today, so that when we do move forward, or as we do move forward, we can come back to you and say, you know, there was belt and suspenders approach to securing these contracts.
So, Dr.
Abundance.
Dr. Escamillo,
Yes.
so in the future, assuming we approve this and you all negotiate the contracts, will you come back to us in the future, not for our approval, but for information to let us know the amount that actually?
By all means.
Okay,
By all means.
thank you.
It's
Okay.
within the max.
Okay.
Regents, we have 3 recommendations. Council, do we vote them all at once, or?
I think so. I think we passed.
Okay, so I'm seeking for a motion
I'd like to
on
make a motion.
on the approval of all 3 items.
I'd like to make a motion.
I think you should do
Oh.
one at a time.
Oh, one at a
Yes,
time?
but before we do that, any general comment on the items? Okay, so we're seeking approval for consultant recommendation to negotiate and enter a contract for billing envelope services. Number 2, to approve consultant recommendations, negotiate and to enter a contract for building commissioning service. And item number 3, to approve consultant recommendation, negotiate and enter a contract for the construction material testing / geotechnical services.
With the firms listed? You don't need that in the motion?
The firms are listed in your handout.
Is it 3 different recommendations or 3 votes, or?
Motion? That's my question.
So you could have a motion that you, to accept staff's recommendation as to
Just
item
accept the
1.
agenda item, yeah.
and then
Item 2.
Item 2, and then item 3.
Okay. Okay.
I can't make the motion.
3 separate motions, so.
Right.
I'll make the motion on the first one, MTech Services, item 1.
Okay, so we have a motion on,
On item 1.
and a second by Regent Rivas. Regents, all in favor?
Any public comments?
Oh, any public comments on the item? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? A motion on number 2 to approve consultant recommendations, negotiate and enter contract for billing commissioning services. Do I hear a motion on that? Public comment.
I'll make that motion with the recommendation to enter a contract with, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Stride Collins.
Streety.
Collins and Cleary Zimmerman Engineers.
I said.
So a motion with a second. Any public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 3, do I hear a motion to approve consultant recommendation, negotiate, and enter a contract for construction material testing, geotechnical services?
I so move, Mr. Chair.
The firm listed.
With the firm listed.
The firm's listed, yes, Rock Engineering.
Rock Engineering.
So we have a motion by Regent Estrada and a second by Regent Rivas. Do I hear any comments? Any public comments on the item? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, closed session pursuant to Texas Code 551.071, consultation with legal counsel regarding pending and litigation or settlement offer with possible discussion and action in open session and seeking of legal advice from counsel on pending contemplative legal matters or claims with possible discussion and action in open session. The time is 3:16. We are back in session. It is 4:27. Let's go our calendar in.
No action to be taken. No action.
Oh, no action taken in closed session?
No, in open session. In open session.
Oh, in open session. No action taken in open session. Calendar in. We have fall graduation on the 13th. Which is Friday, along with the seasonal celebration at CED,
Friday,
which will be Friday,
11 o'clock.
11 a.m. The graduation is at 7. Yeah.
6:30.
So Regents be there by 6:30.
6:15.
Elva, you 6:15, please.
That at American Bank Center or Salina? American Bank Center or Salina? Bank Center.
Our next board day is scheduled on February the 4th, 2020. Regents, any questions? Happy holidays. We are adjourned.